The History of Jihad, From Muhammad to ISIS by Robert Spencer. If you know anything about Robert Spencer, you will know that he has spent most of his life consumed by research regarding Islam, Muhammad, and the Quran. As the director of Jihad Watch, he has become one of the utmost authorities on the subject, and for this he has been a target of scorn by liberals, and even more seriously, by Muslim fanatics who would very much like to silence him. Because of his brave and open criticism of Muhammad's little helpers, he has been added to the list of those forbidden entry to England for fear of starting a riot that the authorities cannot contain. His latest book compiles the most thoroughly documented history of Muslim violence to date. Loaded with references from the Quran and quotes from historical documents that few have access to, he paints a picture of an ongoing violent stream of jihadi activity that has filled the streets with blood both east and west. When many authors look to find the glorious golden years of Islam, Spencer proves that those golden years have always been at the expense of infidels and financed by those dhimmis who have submitted to paying the jizya tax in support of the Muslim cause. Islam is ultimately about power, but Spencer and others have demonstrated that words have power as well, especially when it's based on the truth. And that is what this book is about, the true history of terror that Islam has brought to the world since the days of the Prophet Muhammad, when he and his followers raided caravans and slaughtered Jewish villages in the Arabian desert. He sheds more light on those nasty crusaders that Muslims and liberals so often point to in defense of Muslim atrocities. Had there been no invasion by Muslim soldiers, there would have been no need for crusaders. The Crusades did not get organized enough to even talked about until several hundred years after Muhammad's followers had conquered most of North Africa and spread terror all the way to India. In order to establish a worldwide governing caliphate, by year 711, Muslims stormed across the Strait of Gibraltar to Iberia, what we call Spain today. Then by year 1001, Muhammad of Ghazni, the Sultan of the day, was destroying Hindu temples of idolatry and converting them to mosques and stacking up mountainous piles of human heads while the streets ran with blood. The Muslim slave market became so overwhelmed with victims that the average person could afford a slave. As a Muslim soldier, you might have as many women sex slaves as you pleased. Those were the golden years in India, Muslim wealth through pillage. Back in Europe, kingdoms divided by theological dispute found that turning the other cheek was little defense for Islamic invaders who were eager to tear down those crosses and images that smacked of idolatry and bring the people of the book, or the Bible, into submission to the God of the Arabs. That Trinity thing was most offensive, and surely God would never have a son. So the remedy was to slaughter those who promote such things and tax those who are willing to submit to dimnitude under the Muslim rule. Oh, and don't forget, take the sons of the infidels and train them to become Muslim soldiers. While we in the West were shaken by radicals on 9/11, the rest of the world had been living this nightmare for hundreds of years. Our politicians, who had never read a Quran, knew little of this history and were baffled by our oil-rich Muslim allies who kept telling them that Islam is a religion of peace. Well, yes, all is peaceful when Islam is in control. Fighting between the two factions of Islam, Shiites and Sunnis, has at times been our saving grace. However, they still agree on one thing. Us non-Muslim kafirs need to be brought under submission to the God of the Kaaba in Mecca. Strange how that all looks to us in the West, but Spencer lays it out in black and white for all the world to see in this 400-page book. This was definitely one worth adding to my library.